very last free tapping in webinar that we will be doing. Unfortunately, the funding for our grants runs out very shortly, but hopefully you guys have enjoyed everything and that you're going to enjoy tonight. So tonight we are doing Tapping In Part 6, looking at accessible tourism and events, how you can tap in and grow this market. So let's jump straight in. 30-Foot Drop acknowledges the traditional owners of country throughout Australia and recognise their continuing connection to land, waters and community. We pay our respects to them and their cultures and to elders both past and present. Must always remember that under the asphalt and tarmac, this land is, was and always will be traditional Aboriginal land. 30-Foot Drop would also like to acknowledge the Department of Communities and Disability Services for funding this and many other initiatives like it. Without their support, so many projects such as Two Wise Monkeys would never see the light of day, and as a community, we would be much poorer for it. This workshop is part of the Realities and Advantages of Access and Inclusion Grant awarded to 30-Foot Drop as part of the Information Linkages and Capacity Building Grants of 2018 to 2019. Now, before we get into everything, let's just do a quick bit of housekeeping. Unfortunately, we don't have the resources to monitor all of our live streams. Okay, so if you want to actually ask any questions or interact with us live, please head to www.30footdrop.com.au/live and use the chat box there to ask us any questions as we go. We absolutely love them and the interaction just keeps us going. We're going to be covering a lot of information in a short amount of time, so we recommend that attendees take the actions they can to minimise any distractions that you have. We will also be recording this session and posting it, so if you want to review it, we'll be posting it to the 30-Foot Drop YouTube and Vimeo libraries. And you can go there to check it out. That's also where it will be captioned properly. If you're currently watching on Facebook, you will have live captions, which is brilliant. We'll also be referencing research during today's session. And if you want to actually go to the source of these researches and look at the data that we actually mention, we actually have it all on the 30-Foot Drop Digital Resource Library. So if you head to www.30footdrop.com.au and go to the Resources tab there and have a look through. We've got some amazing stuff in there, from checklists through to Australian standards and other ways of how you can actually help to become a more inclusive business. At the end of the webinar, we have a short survey for attendees to complete, so please take the time to fill this out as it really, really helps us. Pardon me. Now, allow me to introduce myself. I am your wise monkey for tonight. My name's Ben. I am See No Evil. I am See No Evil because I am a C5 quadriplegic. It is very obvious that I have an impairment. Okay, and that's why I am See No Evil, because by listening to me tonight and taking in the information that I have to give you about growing the accessible tourism market in your region, by the end of it, you will see no evil about disability and impairment. The other wise monkey, who's been doing a lot of the webinars recently, is Lisa, and she is Hear No Evil. Now, I'm not going to ruin Lisa's story, but she has an invisible impairment. The sort of impairment that you wouldn't realise that she is, the sort of impairment that you don't realise that is present. Okay, and unless she actually told you, verbalised it, unless you actually heard her tell you, you wouldn't realise. And that is why she is Hear No Evil, because by the end of the night, you hear no evil about disability impairment. But there's normally 3 wise monkeys. So, who is the third? We've got See No Evil, we've got Hear No Evil. Still got Speak No Evil. Well, that's you guys. Hopefully by the end of tonight, and as a result of this webinar series, you guys will speak no evil about disability impairment, because you will realise what market there is to be tapped into in order to help your business grow. So, how are we going to get you started on the path of the wise monkey? Well, there is a lot to learn about people with impairment and their potential impact on your business. Today's session is all about how businesses can meet the specific needs of this market in order to tap into the accessible tourism industry. So, we're going to finish off this focus on the tourism and events industry by having a look at the future. The Southwest has the potential to grow this market greatly, and we'll have a look at how this can be accomplished. And to finish the session off, there's going to be an open forum session where you guys can ask any questions that you have. Now, please, I really encourage you to ask any questions you have. It doesn't have to be about tonight, it can be anything. Open, honest conversation is what we at 30 Foot Drop are all about. Really, really encourage you to ask away, okay? We will answer anything and everything. Now, you may notice that there is very little written content on the slides. This is because you're here to interact with your presenters, myself, tonight. In order to facilitate this, I really encourage you to head over to www.30footdrop.com.au/live and use the chat box there to ask any questions that you have. Now, before we dive into the meat of tonight's webinar, I want to go over some terminology. I like to do this at the beginning of each webinar and each workshop that I run to make sure that there's no misunderstanding about what we're talking about, because I will use words and phrases slightly differently to what you may be used to. Okay? So the first one, bit of terminology, is the difference between a disability and an impairment. So I'll start off with an impairment, okay? An impairment is an injury, illness, or congenital condition that causes or is likely to cause a loss or difference of psychological or physiological function. In short, an impairment is your medical diagnosis, okay? So, for example, my impairment is that I'm a C5 quadriplegic with post-traumatic stress in remission. It is basically talking about how you are different to the rest of society, okay? So my difference is exactly as I said, I'm a quadriplegic. Now that's my impairment, not my disability, okay? And that's because a disability is the loss or limitation of opportunities to take part in society on an equal level with others, often due to societal and environmental barriers. It is, as the word implies, and if you stop and think about the word disability or disable, okay, think about it. To disable is to make something unable to function to its full potential. It is something that provides a barrier to your ability, okay? So the disability is the barrier that may be present. So, for example, steps in your shop disable me as a wheelchair user from being able to get into your shop to spend my money. Okay? So impairment is the medical diagnosis, the disability is the barrier. The second bit of terminology that I want to go across is the difference between access and inclusion. Okay? Often access and inclusion is thought of as one word, but it's not. It's two completely different terms. So, first up is access. Access refers to the removal or reduction of barriers, both physical and attitudinal, to participation in the activities and functions of a community. At its core, access focuses a lot on the physical world around us, and it's easily assessed with a checklist. Okay, there are Australian standards that exist. There is all sorts of advice out there on how you can physically set up your business to be accessible, which is brilliant. Access is a major barrier or a major disabler of somebody like myself. But access is only half of the recipe towards having an inclusive business. The other half is inclusion. Inclusion is a psychological state of being and is the process whereby every person who wishes to can participate fully in all aspects of an activity or service in the same way as any other member of the community. Now, when I say every person, okay, Inclusion is not a disability-specific subject. Okay, inclusion means everybody. Okay, so we're talking irrespective of age, impairment, gender, religion, sexual preference, or nationality. Okay, inclusion is when all of us feel like we are part of something. Hopefully this all makes sense. Now, if it doesn't, please head to www.30footdrop.com.au and use the chat box there to ask me any questions that you may have. But for now, let's get on with the main content of tonight. For the very last time. No, actually I'll qualify that. It isn't the last time. We will do something like this again. Okay, it may be a pay-to-view or something similar. Okay, because these do take a lot of resources. Anyway, you're not here to listen to my future business plans. Instead, you are here to learn about the specific needs of the market when it comes to accessible tourism. Okay. Now, last session, we discussed the similarities between travellers with impairment and the rest of the population, showing you that there is a lot of overlap. Okay, there is a lot of areas that you don't need to change within a business. But despite these similarities to the general population, there are some important differences and specific needs, okay, that travellers with impairment have. Now, something to bear in mind is that travellers with impairment have a strong tendency to manage the stresses and uncertainties of travel by returning to destinations they know well. Okay? Consequently, they appear to have a much higher incidence of repeat visitation. Repeat visitors as an accessible tourism provider is gold. Okay? Repeat loyal customers are brilliant for your cash flow. Okay? That's what you're after. And travellers with impairment are really big ones of those. Now, yesterday, Lisa was referencing the Accessible Tourism in Victoria and Queensland report. Okay, we're going back and we're looking at that report again. And in that report, they found that there are 3 areas of specific need that can be used to attract this market segment. Okay, and these are information, planning, and service. Okay, these are the 3 areas of specific need that you, as an accessible tourism provider, or some sort of service or something similar, can use to attract this market. So let's have the first look at information. Now, travellers with impairment need more support in planning their experiences if they are to travel as much as they want to. Basically, at the moment, there is not enough support in the information field for travellers with impairment to be able to travel as much as they want. Okay, it's hard. So, overall, more detail in the information that is currently provided was rated the highest priority for this market, particularly for those with limited mobility. Now, while this is primarily related to digital sources such as websites and review sites, it could also refer to information anywhere travellers look, including in destination. Okay, so if you have your information booths, or you have a deal where you have your flyers displayed for other businesses at your business, as a, all of these places are places where this information is critical if you want to attract this market segment. But more than just having long documents with complex information, okay, travellers with impairment need information that is, first up, relevant. Okay, it needs to be relevant to us. Now, most places already have different measures in place. Okay, these different measures include extra help with baggage, include different like the ability to be able to sign for things differently. All of these items. The thing is that nobody knows about them. So let us know. Okay, so it needs to be relevant. Okay, so put it on your website and on your profile, such as TripAdvisor. Okay, this information, it also needs to be easy to find and absorb. Okay. This specifically relates to accessible tourism information, which is often not prominently displayed and often extremely complex. Okay, as we discussed in the previous session, This is a decisive market segment, okay? And they are likely to stop a transaction if it is going to be too hard, okay? So that's something to bear in mind. The information also needs to be well structured. Okay, so rather than a 50-page document with all of the information just blur onto it, okay, you need to look at breaking it down into smaller logical parts. So for example, you can have one part on how the customer can let you know what their accessibility requirements are. Okay, another part can be where the access ramps and toilets are within the business. Okay, so you can break it down into parts that make sense and that are smaller and easier to absorb. And lastly, this information needs to be relatable. When choosing accommodation, attractions, or experiences, if you include a range of images that cover a breadth of impairments, it would help the potential traveller feel that they were choosing an option that they can be a part of. Okay? As we discussed in a previous webinar, when you can relate to the marketing, when you look at it and you go, wow, I recognise myself in that, then you are subconsciously feel more welcome at that place. Okay, so including people with impairment in an integrated marketing strategy is essential. So let's look at some of the specific findings from this report that relate to information and accessible tourism. So first up, when the people surveyed were asked what the number one priority to drive accessible tourism is, the most mentioned was information provision. Okay? If you make it easy to find and highly accessible, then you increase the chances of attracting this market segment. On top of that, 41% wanted information contained on review sites like TripAdvisor that were relevant to travellers with specific needs. Okay? Once again, putting the information out there, making it easy to find. Sites such as TripAdvisor make it really easy to look at a wide range of accommodation all at once. So if you have all the information on there, travellers with impairment can make decisions with the information without having to go to a lot of effort of doing it. Now, an item that was brought up many times was the idea of introducing an accreditation system that shows businesses that have made a commitment and implementation of accessible travel systems. Okay, so the problem is that access, unless you're actually trained in it, access and accessibility can mean completely different things to everybody. By having an accreditation system, it means that we know exactly where the bar is. Now, when asked what the priority for improvement to this market was, 86% rated the addition of more practical information as important. So this includes the location of ACROD bays, toilets, access ramps, all of these really basic things. Having that information there, that practical information, readily and easily available, is seen as a high priority. Okay? And 83% rated an increased prominence of this information on tourism and transport websites. Once again, have the information in multiple places. Make it easy to find, and you will increase your chance of actually attracting this market. So, that's information. Let's move on to the planning segment. Okay, this is the next priority area that needs to be improved if you want to attract this market. So, people with impairment, especially those with mobility issues, have specific needs that, if not met, makes visiting a business or an event impossible. Okay, with all the effort and cost it takes to plan a trip or visit, lots of research is done to ensure that these resources aren't wasted. 40% of respondents to the survey stated that not knowing what to expect was a barrier to travel. Okay? This highlights the benefit of more and or more detailed information being available for trip planning. Okay? There is also a need for expert advice at the planning stage, especially if you want to attract this market. Creating relationships and promoting your accessibility on platforms such as disability forums, peak bodies in the area, specialist travel agents, and even NDIS coordinators are all important ways of actually letting people know that you have a system that is easy to plan on, that you are open for accessible tourism. Okay? Sorry, wrong slide. There we are. Internally, okay, probably the easiest way of doing this is you can actually appoint an accessibility coordinator, someone who is across all aspects of accessibility in your organisation. This person would be responsible for answering all access queries and creating relationships. Okay. Now, this coordinator will also address the next point in research, which is specifically the research highlighted a strong preference to connect with a business or destination personally, okay, either in person or by phone or email, okay. Having this accessibility coordinator, somebody that they can contact directly, okay, would provide a potential customer with information in a rapid and accurate manner, increasing the likelihood of converting this potential customer to a real customer, to a sale. Traditional travel agents with a strong service ethic could also be important in driving conversation, particularly for older travellers and those who have lower support needs. Many clients have low expectations, so this advice could expand their interest and create client demand for new products. Travellers with impairment find it hard to be inspired when they don't know what is possible, and having an advocate such as a traditional travel agent for the possibilities would be an absolute boon. Somebody who can let them know what is out there. Okay, so that's the planning, okay, the area specific need. Now we're going to move on to the final area, which is service. Okay, now there are still many challenges with regards to the attitudes and understanding from tourism, hospitality and event staff, and those of the public towards travellers with impairment. Okay, this is especially a challenge for young travellers with impairment and for those with hidden impairments who require support in less obvious ways. Okay, additionally, quality of service by staff is a key driver for recommendation across all travel categories in this study. Okay, so having staff who are inclusive, who are open, who are trained, who are good at their job at being a service provider is essential and will drive this conversation so much further within your business. Okay. Lastly, cost is very important for many travellers with an impairment, as many need to travel with a carer or extra equipment, which makes costs higher. Okay. Assistance with these costs, including potentially via the NDIS or National Disability Insurance Scheme, or via special deals for those with a carer, would assist with removing barriers to more travel and also has a ripple effect when it comes to ethical consumerism. We discussed ethical consumerism in a previous webinar. Okay, so those are the three areas of specific need that you can concentrate on: an accessible tourism service or a provider, accessible tourism or events provider. Okay, and they're quite easy when you think about it. And when you think about the amount this market can grow, it's amazing. Now, let's have a quick look at the future, okay? And we're going to have a look at growing the accessible tourism market in your region, okay? How can we do this? What can you do? There is amazing potential there. Now, the opportunity to grow this market, it's a multifaceted project in which all key stakeholders have a role to play. Okay, who are these stakeholders? So these are the people that would need to be involved on for a region to increase their accessible tourism. Okay, first up is the most important. Okay, we have the people with impairment, the ones who are going to be using these services, the ones who are going to be advertising them, the ones who, these are your customers, you need to understand them. Okay, so we have people with impairment, their families and carers. Okay, having a direct understanding of their needs is critical at every stage of this project. The next one is the peak bodies that represent both tourism and the disability sector. Okay, we also have the government on a state and local level to help with infrastructure. We also have destination management organisations such as your visitor centres. You also have the tourism and event service providers themselves. Okay, these are the stakeholders within a region that would need to be involved in growing this market in your region. Now, what are the stages to actually, how would you go about it? What are the stages? Now, this part is intended to be an executive overview of the stages involved and how the stakeholders outlined before would actually be involved. This is by no means an exhaustive how-to, and I realise that there is much more involved in this than I actually say. Okay, but this is your basic outline. If anybody out there is interested in a more exhaustive discussion about what would be required in your region to help grow the accessible tourism market, please get in contact with us at 30 Foot Drop. I'd be more than happy to talk to you about it. This is a major passion of ours. Okay, so what are the 5 stages? There are 5 stages. I just said that, didn't I? Okay, the 5 stages that are required to grow this market are the following. The first up is consulting. Then you've got inspiring and educating. Then you've got collating, promotion, and lastly, build. Okay, let's have a look at each of these 5 stages closer and how the stakeholders would need to be involved in each stage. So, stage 1, consult. Consultation should be the foundation of accessible tourism. It should ensure that what is offered is built on a rich understanding of what travellers with impairment both want and need. Okay? It will also empower the people with disability to know that what is being created is something that is going to work. All too often in our history, things have been made for people with disability without our consultation, and they have failed because there's been simple things overlooked that could have easily not been overlooked with some consultation. Anyway, okay, this is a responsibility for all stakeholders, but government and destination management officers can take the lead as they have the resources and skills to undertake projects, as well as research and guide others. Okay, so that's the first stage, consultation. Let's find out what exactly is needed, what exactly is wanted. Okay. Stage 2, inspire and educate. Okay. This is all about ensuring that the industry has an understanding of the potential of the sector. Okay, and has provided support on how to start targeting. Government, destinations and peak bodies should all have a role in doing this, in educating the industry. Okay, so that's the educate. The inspire, okay, is around inspiring travellers with impairment. Because the thing is that we have a very low expectation of what is available, okay? But our aspiration for travel is high. We have no idea what's out there because nobody lets us know. And that's what this is about. The task here is to encourage them to explore and test their boundaries, okay? Peak bodies, service providers and individual operators all have a massive role to play in this. Okay, so that's stage 2, inspiring and educating. Stage 3, collation. Okay, this is all about bringing together the experiences and in order to provide a holistic offering in some key destinations. Okay, this will help the traveller plan and navigate their trip. So all this information that you've created and these new products that are created as a result of this, collate them in some key destinations that allow for easy planning. Okay, government, peak bodies in both the tourism and disability sectors, along with service providers, can all potentially play a role to help identify new areas of experience and product development, all the supporting infrastructure around them. Governments can work in the sector in a number of ways, including improving accessibility standards. Sorry, gone too far. Back. There we are. Improving accessibility standards in the industry and developing new infrastructure that considers the complete user experience. Okay, so that's stage 3, collation. Okay, so far we've had consult, we've had inspire and educate, and now we've done collate. Okay, next one, step 4, is promote. Okay, so we've got all the information there. We've figured out what's needed. Okay, we've educated and we've got the ideas together and we've put it all together in a place where people can find it. The next step is to promote it. Okay, because many travellers are not aware of what is on offer. Therefore, it is important to promote what is available in order to generate the demand. The information needs to be easy to find, well structured, and provide the opportunity to delve further for planning and to build confidence in the experience and or trip. This is the responsibility of individual businesses and the destination management officers along with their peak bodies. Okay, so that's been the promotion. So that's how we're going to generate the demand. The 5th stage, the final stage, and this may not be the 5th stage, is build. Now, while this is not the highest priority for now, new infrastructure needs to be the subject of ongoing focus. Okay? Ensuring that any new infrastructure employs universal design principles will make widening this opportunity more cost effective in the future. Okay? This is a cross-industry responsibility. Okay? This is for everybody. We need to make sure that these standards keep on improving, to make sure that the infrastructure around these businesses is getting better and better. Okay? So that's the 5 stages. Okay? Consult, inspire, educate, collate, promote, and build. As I said, if you guys are interested in that, get a hold of us. Okay? At 30 Foot Drop, be more than happy to talk to you about it. And with that, that is the content that we have for this evening. Now, if you're not hanging around for the open forum session, please go to www.30footdrop.com.au/live, and there you will find some surveys. They are quick, 5-question, 30-second surveys. Really help us out, guys. Okay, so please head there. Now, for those that are hanging around for the open forum, how it works is I'm going to give you 5 minutes to get all your questions in. Okay, now these questions can be on anything and everything. They don't have to be just about what we've discussed tonight. Okay, open, honest conversations is what we're all about. Okay, so enter in all the questions you have. I'll give you guys 5 minutes. Hell, I'll give you 6. It's 6:34 at the moment, according to my clock. So I will give you guys until 6:40 to get all your questions in. Then I'll jump back on and answer them for you. Okay, for those that aren't hanging around, thank you very much. This has been an absolute pleasure running these webinars. For those that are asking the questions, I look forward to answering them in a sec. See you in 5. And we're back. Okay, looks like we've got no questions tonight, which is absolutely fine. Look, thank you everybody for being part of this journey. I have learned so much by doing these webinars. It has been really good fun. Look after yourselves, look after each other, stay safe, stay healthy. Okay? And we will see you all soon. Bye.